Kia ora everyone, my name's Zach, I love rugby, welcome back to Hakatime Rugby. Wow guys, what another epic encounter. We add another impressive chapter to what is the greatest rivalry in rugby. Congratulations to both teams, and I think irrespective of who you support, the Springboks or the All Blacks, I think that's a game that we can all just stand up and applaud. I was just thrilled throughout that game. It had everything. It was obviously a strategic and tactical chess match, is how I would describe it. Obviously, we know how the Springboks play. The All Blacks trying to refine their form and find a bit more game management. So it was very interesting seeing the ebbs and flows of the game and how certain strategies were playing out and being more successful than others. And I just sort of walk away from that game thinking, you know, we as rugby fans get the benefit of what was a fantastic match. So again, I just want to reiterate this point that irrespective of who you support, we should all be thankful that we get these fantastic matches. So that was great. I'm going to cover off my thoughts in detail on the game. I don't typically go through sort of play by play. I'll just throw out some of my key points in the game, and also stay tuned because I do want to give more details on a subscriber giveaway that I'm going to do later in this video. But before we kick off, I just need to talk about a lot of the pressure that was on the All Blacks, right? So coming into this match, written off by everyone, there were question marks about obviously Foster and Sam Cane, and everyone was writing off the All Blacks. Everyone except I'm going to make a bold, massive, huge prediction. And some might think I'm crazy after that game, one of the performances that the All Blacks had, but I actually think there are enough minor changes here made by the All Blacks that might actually tip this game in their favour. Yep, so good old Hakatime Rugby predicted it again. We got that one correct, guys. A lot of people said that I was being overly optimistic, maybe a little bit emotional. I just tried to outline the facts, guys. I saw specific things in game one that I thought were indicators that the All Blacks weren't too far off the pace, and I thought with the changes that were made that we would see improved performance from the All Blacks, which we did. So that was the basis of my prediction, and that's why, you know, I try to bring these videos to you guys. It's just to give you my thoughts and analysis on how I read and see the game. Now to the game itself, and let's start off with the atmosphere. I mean, packed house, 70,000 odd, 60,000 odd supporters. You know, there is no more intimidating place in world rugby. You've got Ellis Park, you've got Eden Park, and maybe a handful of other places around the world that really represent the pinnacle and homeland of rugby, and we saw that in full effect. And when the flyover came on, it was just a reminder of 1995 and some of the epic encounters. It was just a really historic moment. I thought it just really helped to build up the atmosphere of the game. But what I noticed pre-game that probably stood out most to me is finally we got a haka with a bit of passion. And I thought immediately in that moment, the boys are up for it, because if you remember last week, they were completely drowned out by the crowd. You couldn't hear much, and just didn't seem to be enough passion in the haka. But this week, I thought that the boys really put in some effort, and it was a statement of intent somewhat, that they were prepared and up for this game. Okay, so the game kicks off, and obviously early in the game, Jesse Creel goes down injured, and there will be a lot of discussion. I know I've already seen online there's been a lot of discussion about selections from Ninaba, and whether or not he got it right. There were question marks around Dwayne Vermeulen. Obviously, he didn't play significant minutes, although that may have been part of their strategies and to introduce him early. Jesse Creel unfortunately goes off injured, and let's hope he recovers very, very quickly. We hate to see players going off injured like that. Now, continuing on selection, so obviously there was a lot made about the tight five for the All Blacks and the young front rowers, but they really did stand up in this match. So there were moments where the Springboks were dominant in the scrums, but as I mentioned in my preview, if the All Blacks can establish parity, then they start to take away one of the significant weapons that the Springboks have, and they did that in the scrum. Largely, the scrum was stable from the All Blacks, and I thought that the young front row brought a real high work rate around the track. And that is something that I commented on in my preview building up to the match. So great to see Tyrell Lomax. He had a great game. I thought Ethan de Groot had one of his best games in a black jersey. Samisoni Tokeaho, obviously, as well. High work rate, played really well. And you contrast that with Joseph Dweeba. I know another one of those selection discussions that happened pre-match and is happening now about whether or not Malcolm Marx should have started if Joseph Dweeba is up to it. Look, he didn't have a great game, and I did say that I thought Malcolm Marx should have started this game, but they obviously went with Dweeba, and Malcolm Marx still got a significant portion of the minutes as part of the bomb squad coming on at the 30th minute mark. Another area that we have to talk about, guys, is the line-out. I thought the All Blacks line-out was outstanding. So I've got some stats here. South Africa were 13 from 17 in their line-outs. New Zealand 8 from 10. South Africa, I think, had one not straight call. That was from Joseph Dweeba. And New Zealand had two, one from Toke Aho and one from Cody Taylor. But there were 3 stolen line-outs, which the All Blacks were able to win. And Shannon Frizzell was a big part of that. If you do go and look at it, I think he secured 2 of those stolen lineouts. So he had a real impact on the game, both in physicality and in set piece and in lineout. And just turning some of those lineouts just really helps with game management. It really helps with possession and territory as well, because you're able to secure the ball. So, you know, that was a huge, those 2 areas, both scrum and lineout. And we'll also add the breakdown as well, with significant reasons why the All Blacks were able to stay in this game, and then obviously use their X factor to convert that into points. So with those key areas, it was a fast start for the All Blacks. And I say fast, but it did take 20 minutes, I think, for the points to start flowing. But, you know, they were able to jump out to a 15-0 lead. And that was, you know, huge for All Blacks fans who have been persevering with these slow starts against Ireland and slow starts late last year against Ireland and France, and even last week against the Springboks. So great to see the All Blacks turn that around finally. And as I mentioned, set piece, breakdown were big reasons for that. And also game minute management. I thought the inclusion of Richie Mo'unga really helped tactically to position the All Blacks in better areas of the field. I think they've finally got it right, although one criticism that I do have for Ian Foster is that he's kind of stumbled upon this selection rather than had a definitive game plan to execute this strategy. So Mo'unga comes in largely because, you know, Beauden Barrett did take that significant knock in game 1. But I think the combination of Mo'unga starting and Beauden Barrett's impact off the bench is a far better fit for both of these players and their skill sets and the demands of international rugby. Now, to the credit of the Springboks and to the coaching staff, they made some tactical changes at the 30th minute mark. And, you know, this is one thing I absolutely love about South African rugby, is they are very clear on their strategy and their style, and they execute it within the rules as best as possible. So to bring on that bomb squad sort of 32nd minute mark, I think that the changes were starting to be made at the 30th minute mark, Malcolm Marks. Then there were significant changes at the 33rd, 34th minute mark as well. Not many coaches would do that, right? So fantastic work from them, and I think that was a big reason why they were able to get some dominance. So they were able to turn one of the scrums late in that half with a fatiguing All Blacks forward pack, and press their advantage to close that gap. And I think some of those changes, well, you know, Ninaba does, you know, he is quite conscious of making early changes or shortly after half time, so it's not unusual. But I think there was a recognition that we can't let this game get out of hand. I did feel that another All Blacks try before halftime might have ended the contest, right? So at that point, you say 20, 22 points up going into halftime. That could have been it. So great work from him to make those changes. In comes the bomb squad, and they had an immediate impact, winning the scrum, you know, better in go forward and better in the breakdown. And as a result, we're able to close the gap at halftime from 15 points to 0 to 15 points to 10. That was a huge moment in the match, I thought. And then going into the second half, we saw something that we don't typically see, which was, you know, the All Blacks playing more of a tactical sort of kicking game early in that half, and the Springboks playing a much more dynamic, running, attacking rugby. And I just thought in that moment, you know, the Springboks have really got something here if they're willing to focus on getting the right balance between game management, territory possession, kicking, and attacking rugby. They've really got something here, because Lukanyo Am, in my opinion, should be nominated for World Player of the Year this year, without a doubt. Same with Ardie Savir, actually, while I'm on the topic. I mean, they might have difficulty beating out someone like Johnny Sexton. Ireland's having a fantastic year, obviously now ranked world number 1. But I think those 3 players in particular should be nominated for World Rugby Player of the Year. And Lukanyo Am was superb. Damien Willemse brings that X factor. You know, the pass that he made to Mapimpi, I think it was, for his try, just outstanding. There's really something there if they can get the right balance. My only criticism of the South African coaching staff would be that they focus too much on their existing strengths without adding some of those additional tools, I guess, in the toolbox, or strings to the bow, as others might call it. You know, you've really got some fantastic attacking players that are now building up international experience, that if you get the balance right, you can be a team with significant variation, huge strengths in the forwards, and great attacking weapons in the back. So that's just a little throw out there for Springboks fans, something to, I guess, look out for, and maybe a challenge for the South African coaching staff. So anyway, with that, the Springboks are able to come back, you know, it went from 15-0 down to, I think at one stage they took the lead at 23, 22, whatever it was, and looked to be the favoured team. And going into the last 10 minutes, you just thought, okay, difficult position for the All Blacks, and it looks like all the momentum's with the Springboks. But, you know, the All Blacks always have that X factor, and we're able to rely on some fantastic breaks from Rieko Ioane, tries to David Havili, and Scotty Barrett at the death. Really just helped to pull away and close out the game. So, you know, it was a real game of, as I mentioned, strategy and tactics. It was a game of punch, counter punch. It was just an epic All Blacks versus South Africa. As I mentioned in the beginning, the greatest rivalry in rugby. It was just an epic contest. And I'm so thankful that we get the benefit of witnessing these fantastic games. Okay, guys, to the subscriber giveaway. Let's get this out of the way right now. So, there's two reasons why I'm doing this, guys. One is because I don't often see that the sporting odds do not favour the All Blacks. So I put a significant wager on the All Blacks to win that game. Obviously, it was a winning wager, and you know, I've done pretty well off of that. So that was part of the reason. The other reason is that I want to give back to the rugby community. Hakatime Rugby has always been about uniting rugby fans, right? I'm just a guy from New Zealand who loves rugby, loves talking rugby, okay? But what I have noticed online is that there is always a clear divide. There is, and there is also a trend towards content that is sort of diminishing the All Blacks, doing very, very well. So I almost feel like there is a hunger for people wanting to see the downfall of the All Blacks, and that's fine. I mean, that's just what it is, right? They've had a great period of dominance, and been fortunate to be, you know, one of the best teams in the world for a significant period of time. So I get that others really, really want their teams to win, and completely agree with it. But I'm also concerned that now we're going to go the other way, that the All Blacks have won, and that the vitriol and comments online from All Blacks fans will be negative and divisive. And that's not really what I'm about at Hakatime Rugby. So with my winnings, I'm going to do a subscriber giveaway as a gesture to the online community that rugby is a game for all, that I love rugby no matter who's playing, and I'll support all teams, right? And that's the kind of community that I'd like to build on Hakatime Rugby. So I'm going to do something like 100 USD Amazon voucher, and I want you guys to answer one question, and that question is, who is my all-time favorite All Black? Now, you have to be a subscriber of the channel, so please subscribe if you haven't already, and you have to like this video, and you have to comment down below with who you believe my favorite All Black is, and creative answers will be rewarded. You don't have to get it right, so you know, this is not necessarily, I'll just choose someone at random, but this is not necessarily about getting the answer right. This is about just coming up with creative answers and hearing what you guys have to say. I'll give you a clue. Everyone knows who he is, so you'll know the name, you'll know it well, and there may not even be too much surprise. It might be a bit of an anticlimax for a lot of people, but that's the subscriber giveaway, guys. I'll draw it in a couple of, maybe in a week or so. It's coming up to my 100th video very, very soon, so that may be a good way for us to do the 100th video, is to announce the subscriber giveaway. And you know, as I mentioned, guys, I'm here to unite the rugby community. That's the intent of this channel, because I love rugby. So my man of the match, guys, I know Rieko Ioane got the official man of the match, but I thought someone in the type 5 for the All Blacks deserved the man of the match honours. Line out went well, scrum went well, or well enough, and breakdown. So I'm going to give my man of the match honours to Scott Barrett. I thought that he did a fantastic job of neutralising the box kicks from Hendricks, if you go back and watch that. So he's putting significant pressure on him. He's not getting good clean kicks away, and as a result, you know, he actually had quite a poor kicking game by his high standards and by the example that was set last week. So I give the nod to Scott Barrett. I'd be interested in who you guys think is man of the match. And, you know, what a fantastic game. Now, talking points after the game. Will this result save Ian Foster and Sam Cane ultimately from changes? I don't know, guys, but one thing that really stood out to me, and this is probably my challenge to the All Blacks fans, is it is very, very clear that the All Blacks players have all of their support 100% behind Ian Foster and Sam Cane and this leadership group. They spoke about going through so much adversity and how it builds character, and how this is where great teams are built, and that they've had full support and stayed united throughout. And I think that's something that we as fans should all start to rally around, I guess, is the team have made a decision collectively that this is the direction they're happy with. Now, a lot's going to be going to happen in the next week. There are reviews, there are outcomes. Ian Foster was retained specifically for this series, not necessarily for the Rugby Championship. Those were the words of the CEO, Mark Robinson. So I believe that we are going to get a decision one way or another in the coming few days, right? And my challenge to All Blacks fans is, whatever that decision is, it's time for us to get in behind the All Blacks, right? Because the players support the coaching staff, and we know that players do this anyway, right? So they are by nature humble, by nature, support, those in their team. But I've just seen enough clues. There was an interview with Ma'anonu with Ian Foster, and they spent most of it hugging each other, right? Part of it was probably the emotional relief of that result, which Ma'anonu realised, but another part of it has to be the support that Nonu, an old player who's been in the setup, all those periods of success, that backing that he has for that person, for that coach, Ian Foster. Same with comments from Ardie Severe, same with comments from David Havili, same with comments from Sam Whitelock throughout the week, and Sam Kane as well. So I think whatever the decision that's made this week, it's time for us all to get behind it, and time for us to support this All Blacks team. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Have a fantastic week. Plenty more rugby to come, so stay tuned on Hakatime Rugby. We're going to cover it all as we progress through the Rugby Championship, and I will see you all back here very soon.